Alright, convicted felons. We're going to talk about convicted felons now. It is a felony for a convicted felon to touch a firearm. They may not touch firearms, they may not buy firearms, they may not transport firearms, they may not do anything with a firearm at all. There is not a single solitary area in the entire United States of America where it is legal for a convicted felon to buy or purchase or use a gun, period, end of story. So when someone tells you that it is easy for a convicted felon to legally buy a gun, they are wrong. When someone tells you that a criminal can go here and buy a gun through a legal loophole, they are wrong. They are wrong. I don't mean to be rude about that, but they're wrong. You're just wrong. My friends, you're wrong. And it doesn't matter what the reason is. There was a celebrity. I'm not going to mention his name. I'm just going to respect him. I'm going to give him some respect. There was a celebrity that was a convicted felon. And he was in a situation which was not his fault, where a lot of people wanted to kill him. And they were serious people that were a legitimate threat. He was caught trying to buy guns. He was charged with federal crime for several reasons. Number one, he was not buying guns from a gun dealer. He was buying guns from someone he thought was an illegal gun dealer. Turned out to be an undercover officer. Number two, he was buying guns that are not available for public sale. Number three, he was buying guns as a felon. It did not matter that he had a legitimate threat. It mattered that he bought the guns when he wasn't supposed to. That's all the judge needed to know. Okay. Domestic abusers. This is my New York State loophole closed. Okay. My governor is not very friendly with the NRA. That's a fact. I'm not trying to bash him, but that is a fact. The NRA does not view him politely, and he does not view them politely. They're at odds. I'm an NRA member. My governor recently signed a law into effect. I was the first person to say he was right. He made it illegal in my home state for a misdemeanor domestic abuser to have a gun. That means anyone convicted, not accused of, not believable, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Anyone convicted of domestic violence, even misdemeanor domestic violence, no gun. Now, up until he signed that law, if you wanted to get a handgun license, in my area, a detective processes your application. He gives it to the judge. The judge says, the county judge says, he's clean? Yeah, give him the license. Boom. Here's his license. No big deal. Okay, and you have to tell the detective if you were ever arrested and what for and what was the outcome of the case. And he checks your fingerprints with the FBI and the state police to make sure you're not lying. Prior to this law, a detective could have legally allowed someone convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence to have a gun license. And a judge legally could have signed off on it. That wasn't going to happen because many of the professors I studied under were police officers. There was nothing they feared more than domestic violence. They feared domestic violence more than drugs. They feared domestic violence more than gang hideouts. They don't know if a 13-year-old girl threw her grandmother down a flight of stairs. They don't know if a guy came home drunk and beat his wife up. They don't know if a woman found her sister in bed with her husband and went crazy with a baseball bat. They don't know. Police fear domestic violence, so good luck finding a detective willing to sign off on your gun license. Judges, they see the outcome. They see the victim with black eyes and bloody noses saying he hit me or she hit me. So good luck finding a judge to sign off on it. Now, you don't need a license to get a shotgun or a rifle. You need to do a background, but you don't need a license. So you could have went to a gun dealer, bought a shotgun for hunting, and the gun dealer could have said, misdemeanor domestic violence, 10 years ago, alright, fine, I'll give you the gun. That wasn't going to happen either. Because if you have a legally owned gun and you commit a domestic assault, that gun dealer does not want his name in the paper. So there was no way you were going to find a detective or a judge willing to give you a handgun license. There was no way you were going to find a gun dealer willing to give you any gun at all. Period. It wasn't going to happen. Now, when someone is convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence, that means he didn't hit the person hard enough. He didn't hit them hard enough yet, but he soon will. So someone that is convicted of domestic violence does not need a gun. My governor was right for passing this law. Hold on a minute, please. Ma? My parents' plane landed today. I missed a call. I'll get it later. Okay, we have a few minutes. I'm terribly sorry about that interruption, but family first. She landed safely. I'll call her in a few minutes. Okay, so in my home state, if you're a domestic abuser, it's illegal for you to have a gun. Misdemeanor means, well, 90% of the time, domestic violence is a felony. Because by the time the police come, the victim needs to be transported to the hospital or the suspect used a weapon. But if someone is convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence, it means he didn't hit the person hard enough yet, but he soon will. Okay? If the domestic abuser slapped the victim today, he punches the victim tomorrow. So a domestic abuser has no Second Amendment protection. None. They're not a law-abiding citizen. They're violent. And I've been in the courtrooms and I've seen the cases, and the nastiest cases I've seen are domestic violence. I've seen them with my own eyes. They're the nastiest cases possible, and they're the cases that are least tolerated by the judge, the prosecutor, and the police. So our governor, who I have respectfully disagreed with a lot, was 100% right when he made this law. Okay? He has an NRA member publicly supporting him making this law. Doesn't affect me because I'm not a domestic abuser, but it affects them. Okay? Proper background investigations. It is years ago there were no proper background investigations. There weren't. We had no internet. We had no technology. And it was entirely possible for a criminal to get a gun in a gun store, have a background check that missed certain things. In this day and age, we have internet technology, we have this, that, and the other thing. We have fingerprints, we have DNA, we have all this phenomenal technology where it wasn't like, okay, the gun dealer has to wait 10 minutes for a fax to come in. A gun dealer can get an email, an instant message from a police officer in 2 seconds. Technology has greatly improved the way we do background investigations. Now, after the shootout in Virginia Tech, it was revealed that the shooter had a legally owned gun. President Bush Jr., an NRA supporter, and the NRA itself approved of laws that strengthened the cooperation between dealers and law enforcement and made it much easier for dealers and police officers to check proper backgrounds, and made it much more difficult for a criminal or a mentally unstable person to get a legally owned gun. This was approved by the NRA. Now, obviously, anti-gun politicians and anti-gun advocates will swarm to a gun law simply because it says gun and stop in the same sentence. But this was a proper law. It was good because it means that if I'm a legal citizen, which I am, I'm not going to be bothered. But if I am someone that hears voices in my head telling me to set fires, if I'm someone who's been in a mental institution for attempted suicide, the gun dealer will find out about it, which is a very, very good law. It's very, very good. It's very, very proper. And background investigations today are much, much, much harder to do than they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I mean, much easier to do, I'm sorry, much easier to do. Okay. I need to recharge the camera and return a phone call. I think we're... Yeah, we're going to stop now.